Welcome to Once Upon a Coin, documenting the ongoing history of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And as always, I'm your storyteller, Jason Cassidy. Today's story is a real roller coaster ride if you're fairly new to the cryptosphere. And if you've been in the industry for a good amount of time, then you are about to get a serious dose of nostalgia. We're dusting off the history books and going into the past when crypto wasn't even a thing yet, and only the most daring and fearless were willing to take a chance on what most people thought was a complete scam. Turns out it wasn't a scam at all. It was a completely legitimate invention that would one day change how our entire species looked at money. This is the story of crypto in 2011.
Sun cast a shadow, a digital line is coming over the mountain and over your mind. Double down on your Bitcoin, hang on for the ride. We're moving into the future, one block at a time. We're moving into the future, one block at a time.
2011 was a noteworthy year with a lot of eye-catching headlines. Game of Thrones debuted, Japan experienced the tumultuous events of Fukushima, and Steve Jobs finally called it quits after an incredibly successful career at Apple. However, in a small corner of the technology realm, something else was also transpiring, and it was called Bitcoin. And while it wasn't yet at the same level of notoriety as some of the other events taking place in 2011, many soon realized that the sleeping giant was about to awaken. Things kicked off with a bang in January when the Electronic Frontier Foundation, a non-profit group focused on defending civil liberties of the public, announced that they would be accepting Bitcoin. This was a pretty damn good endorsement considering their role as a steward between the intersections of technology, freedom, and justice. It wasn't just random techies that were adopting the currency anymore. Now legitimate organizations were too. Not long after this, the now infamous Silk Road Marketplace launched, allowing people from across the globe to buy and sell goods, legal and otherwise. And of course, the medium of exchange used on the Silk Road Marketplace, you guessed it, Bitcoin. Interestingly enough, this is at least in part how I first heard about Bitcoin. And no, I wasn't buying drugs with crypto back then, but there is a tie-in that I'm sure I'll share with you all in a future episode. The main point here is that all the momentum that had been building up at the end of 2010 had completely carried over into the beginning of 2011. This could be felt almost instantly in the price, which admittedly for the first few years of Bitcoin's existence was, well, pretty boring. But that all changed in a big way because in February, Bitcoin hit the historic $1 US mark for the very first time. Now look, I can appreciate when you're hearing this, this doesn't really sound like much given the gaudy numbers that Bitcoin's achieved since then. But back in the day, this constituted a major milestone that most people thought would never be achieved. Suffice to say, Bitcoin was off to a very good start to begin the year. But that's the thing. Up until now, Bitcoin equaled crypto because there really wasn't anything else out there. This all changed on April 18th, however, because that was the day that Namecoin was released. This was big news at the time because Namecoin turned out to be the first ever altcoin. Even though today we've got literally tens of thousands of altcoins to choose from, back then it was actually Namecoin that broke the mold and gave everyone an alternative to Bitcoin. Created by Vincent Durham, Namecoin is a fork of Bitcoin and also has a hard cap of 21 million coins. It allowed you to register the .bit domain extension, the first decentralized domain names in history, and that also makes it the first true NFT or non-fungible tokens in history as well. So as you can see, while very few recognized its significance at the time, Namecoin proved to be monumentally important to the evolution of the industry outside of Bitcoin. So while the crypto community was digesting the concept of an altcoin, especially one with a functional use case, there was some pretty serious price action taking place as well. Bitcoin had opened the year at just 30 cents US per coin, but by May it had reached the $8 US mark. If anyone had any doubts before, they were now officially settled. Bitcoin was experiencing its first true bull market, and boy oh boy was it glorious. Of course, not everyone in the crypto community was benefiting from this, as some really got caught off guard by the sudden rise in price. One now legendary early adopter who found himself in the wrong end of a game of musical chairs when it came to Bitcoin was Schoen, who took to Twitter to lament about his poor timing. Now, to Greg's credit, he updated his post several years later to let everyone know that he had gotten over the situation. This was frankly nice to see because, as Greg learned the hard way, money isn't everything in life. The month of June saw a lot of things take place for Bitcoin, with one of them being yet another well-known global organization announcing that they were going to be accepting it. This time it was Wikileaks that went to Twitter to announce to the world that they would be soon accepting anonymous donations via the newfangled currency. This was a move that would end up paying off handsomely for Wikileaks and Julian Assange, given the incredible price appreciation that Bitcoin would experience in the coming years. And speaking of the price, it just kept soaring, hitting a yearly high of $30 US per coin on June 8th. Given that Bitcoin started off the year at 30 cents US, if you were holding coins at the beginning of 2011, then this means that you are now enjoying a very sweet 100x return on your investment. And the higher the price went, the more attention Bitcoin garnered. But as we all know in life, not all attention is good attention. And that's because around this time another event took place that made some history all on its own. But this time it was for all the wrong reasons. Mt. Gox, the top Bitcoin exchange of its era and one of the main sources of credit for the now rocketing price of the currency, got a humbling lesson in crypto security. What took place was one of the first recognized high-profile hacks in crypto, and it shook the industry right to its core. The attackers used stolen credentials with admin privileges on the exchange to generate obscene amounts of unbacked Bitcoin out of thin air. They then sold the freshly minted fake Bitcoin at market price, driving the value down from $17.50 a coin to just 1 cent US. They then purchased the panic and confused users' real Bitcoin at dirt cheap prices, and then removed the coins off the exchange before anything could be done. Reports on the amount of coins stolen here vary widely, but the most accepted figure on this high-profile act of villainy seems to be around 2,500 to 2,600 coins taken in total. The price of Bitcoin was already coming back down to earth before the Mt. Gox debacle took place, but suffice to say this ugly display of incompetence on the exchange's part did nothing to help the trajectory of the price at the time. In fact, for the rest of the year, Bitcoin would retrace almost all of its gains, setting the stage for what future bull and bear markets would look like. Thankfully though, innovation just kept happening, as the genie was now most definitely out of the bottle and she wasn't going back in.
I started crypto in early 2011. We ordered one of the first butterfly ASICs, and so we got excited because it was digital money, you know. We were basically just mining all the early coins and trying to hold them for trading later. We took our first profits of the butterfly ASIC and we built an 18 GPU rig. We actually ended up blowing up a capacitor because we did something like modular to modular or something. It backfed and it shot lightning across the room. A lot of experimenting.
No longer was cryptocurrency considered just a hobbyist attraction. It was drawing in some pretty serious talent that had some pretty big ideas. One of those ideas came in the form of the creation of the BIP, or Bitcoin Improvement Proposals, which was announced by Amir Taki. The basic premise outlined how new features would be added to Bitcoin. Given all the controversial changes that had been added into Bitcoin in the years that followed, this was a pretty big yet overshadowed development. This took place in August and pretty much marked the high point for what was a fairly quiet summer in crypto. But that all changed by the fall, and even though the weather was starting to get pretty cold, for crypto, things were just starting to heat up. If you want proof of this, then look no further than the latest altcoin that was hitting the scene. Enter Litecoin. Created by Charlie Lee, Litecoin was dubbed the silver to Bitcoin's gold and enjoyed success right out of the gate. It was announced on October 9th via the Bitcoin Talk Forum, which is home to some of the most famous and celebrated moments in crypto history. This helped prove to the industry that there was indeed a market for cryptocurrencies outside of Bitcoin. And Litecoin quickly found itself being adopted as the second most popular coin in the space. That's right, before Dash and then Ethereum, if you were looking for a competitor to Bitcoin as an investment opportunity, then you were probably looking at Litecoin during this time period. Litecoin differed from Bitcoin in many ways, most notably with its introduction of Script, which was a mining algorithm. In comparison, Bitcoin uses SHA-256, so now even the miners had something new to sink their teeth into. It had some benefits in that it was friendlier from the energy consumption standpoint, and it was much faster to mine than Bitcoin as it wasn't as computationally intense. Litecoin differed from Bitcoin also when it came to the total coin supply, with Litecoin having exactly 4 times as many coins at 84 million versus Bitcoin's 21 million. New exchanges were popping up all the time, and if they wanted to diversify their offerings, then Litecoin was usually the first on the menu. As 2011 came to a close, Bitcoin's price continued to flounder, ending the year below the $5 US mark. It really was a fall from grace considering the price point that Bitcoin hit early in the year at $30 US. But perspective is everything when we take into account that the price started at just 30 cents US back in January. Overall, 2011 was a really good year for crypto. Bitcoin saw its first true bull market, organizations were adopting it, exchanges were popping up everywhere, and we saw the advent of the altcoin. But if you think that's impressive, then you definitely want to see what happened in 2012 because it completely dwarfed anything that had happened in crypto previously. And that's precisely what we're going to be looking at next, so don't forget to check out the story of crypto in 2012. I hope you enjoyed today's stroll down memory lane. Until next time, have fun and enjoy life, my friends. I'll be back soon with another incredible story to tell you.